Welcome to Dr. Ta's Real Talk, which is the third component of the Stronger Transformation Framework. Dr. Ta's Real Talk is presented by DQ Consulting, LLC, empowering individuals and businesses to grow with clarity and confidence. Real Talk is a limited vertical series rooted in honest conversations about life as it actually shows up. Not polished, not packaged, just life. Real Talk is where growth meets reality, where healing is messy, where boundaries are tested, where love, fatigue, faith, identity, and becoming all live in the same body. I'm joined by OnJerya Smith, and together we're having the conversations people think quietly, feel deeply, and rarely say out loud. So wherever you are listening from, pull up a chair. The space is for truth, reflection, and real life. OnJerya?
Teresa.
You know how it is with Real Talk, so I'm just going to jump right in.
Okay.
People are constantly being evaluated, commented on, and judged, especially women. It's our appearance, it's the choices that we make, and our identity are rarely left alone. So, given that, my first question to you is, why do people feel the pressure to present a curated version of themselves in public and private spaces? So let me just clean that up since I said curate. People may not know what I'm talking about. Let me use that plain English. Why do people feel like they got to pretend that they this and they that when that's not their reality?
Because they don't know who they are. And then sometimes it's easier to show up as the representative, right? Because depending on where I'm at in my life, I'm still figuring out who I want to be, right? Because I say all the time, I know what I don't like to do, but I don't know what it is that I want to do, right? So when I'm intermingling with the people, if I present, as I like to say, the representative, then I don't have to really be my true self. I'm just whoever the person that I've chosen to be at that point in time. So, for example, I am really not a people person. I really am a whole introvert. However, when you talk to me, when you see me, it's like, oh my God, you're like the life of the party. And I'm like, yeah, no, really, no. I really be looking at you like, why are you talking to me? Didn't you see that I chose to sit all the way over here? But yet here you come. We're in this whole big room full of people. I'm over here by myself. And yet you could have sat anywhere, but you came to sit over here. Now the representative, the empathic side, the people person side has to show up, right? Because in that moment, this individual has chosen to come and engage with me. So it's easy to be that person who you really probably not, because then you don't have to actually deal with the person that you really are.
So you said several different things here. One, as you just stated, it's easier to be the version of yourself that people think that you are. But at the same time, that's the representative. But then you said also, sometimes people don't know who they are. And that leads me to the next thing. How does social comparison influence our identity and self-worth? Because you just said that I don't know who I am sometimes, or I may not know who I am in those particular circumstances, because we do a lot of code shifting. And again, and we know we have to, first of all, but sometimes because we have to do it so much, my secondary question, which is just a food for thought, I'm not really expecting you to answer, is it that it becomes so second nature because we're always having to shift that we don't know who we are, or we don't know who we are without knowing that we may have to shift at any moment?
Absolutely. Because it's always going to be the person who I, as an individual, think that I am versus the person who society think I should be. And sometimes I feel like we teeter between the two, right? Because again, as I'm doing my healing work, as I'm going on this journey of discovery, I'm still learning who I am because ultimately I'm growing, I'm evolving. So the person who I was 10 years ago, hopefully I'm still not that person 10 years later. The person who I was even 6 months ago, hopefully I have evolved, right? Because change is inevitable. I know it's hard. I know it's scary. But ultimately, as you shift, the things and the ways that you used to move that were not in the best light, they then begin to shift as you continue to move along the way.
Thank you. I just want to level set for our audience. This segment is brought to you by Irene Baxberg. After a life changing accident left her in chronic pain, Irene Baxberg refused to give up. Today, she inspires others by sharing her journey to hope and healing. Follow Irene Baxberg on Instagram. Find her at health underscore VAKSBERG. And it's interesting because Irene really, her whole platform is about hope and healing. And you indicated your healing journey and the fact that there's still work that's taking place within the individual. Now, of course, a lot of people talk about healing now. Excuse me. Talk about this healing that we're going through or that perhaps we should consider. When we're doing that, there is an emotional toll
Yeah.
that occurs because we're really talking about self-preservation when we're trying to heal. So that how do you navigate or sort of balance out the emotional toll that takes place because you're still having to be this person that everybody knows as you are healing and growing into the person that you know that you need to be in order for your life to function the way that you need it to. How do you balance those two things?
Ooh, baby, it's a daily struggle. It is a daily, daily struggle. Um, I do a lot of meditating. I do a lot of praying. I be like, Lord, keep me near the cross. Because you know your child, you know your people, and I just need you. What the song say? I need thee every hour. Oh, how I need thee. Oh, precious Lord. Yes. Um, Without that, I don't think that I'll be able to get through because it is a struggle, right? It's so easy to go back to what is comfortable, what is familiar, right? Versus this new identity that I see for myself because I must. What is the song that Ti and Justin Timberlake, the old me's dead and gone? I've been traveling down this road too long. The old me's dead and gone. Well, the old me, for me, my interpretation, is really never dead and gone. It's just kind of put up in the closet. Okay. She up there in that closet. And every now and then she wants to rear her little ugly little head and make an appearance. And I have to be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, breathe in, breathe out. We're not going to do that. Why? Because we have been thankful and grateful and blessed to evolve to this version because you're never healed, right? My motto is when you're healed is when you're dead. Because as long as you got breath in your body, you're still hopefully evolving, changing, and shifting. And you should also want to evolve and change because who wants to continue to hang on to a version of themselves that no longer fits where they are at this particular time in their life?
Well, now this is a personal question for you. When did you personally realize that comfort in your own skin mattered more than approval?
It was probably about, what are we, we're in 2026. So it was probably 2022, probably 2022. Um, I finally cut ties. Someone that I was dealing with had been dealing with for well over 20 plus years, off and on, more on than off, going through the ups and the downs. So don't get me wrong, I don't regret it, right? I will tell you in a heartbeat that I was square, right? Growing up, I was very square. I was very green, as the kids would say. And I thank God for this person because this person allowed me to get some street smarts. Okay. Because without the street smarts, I can't necessarily say that I would be this person that you see in front of you today. And I actually had this conversation with someone recently about I knew how the world was with my experience from my family, right? But I didn't really know how the world was outside of that family dynamic. So look back 3, 4 years ago, I just decided that I no longer wanted that toxic life anymore. I fell on my knees and I was like, God, why me? Why me? That's a question you should never ask unless you're ready for it. And I wasn't really ready for the answer because I'm like most people, like, God, why am I going through this? Like, I am a good person. I'm a loving person. I show up and show out for everyone. I give you the straight off my back. But why am I continuing to be hurt? Why am I continuing to have to go through the trials and tribulations? Why don't people see the goodness in what I do? Why am I being taken advantage of? And basically, he said to me, well, why not you? Who do you think you are? Do you think that you're too good not to go through the trials and tribulations? Now you know that kind of like hurt my feelings for a little bit because I'm like, Lord, what you mean? What you mean? And he said, because of the storms that you went through, it allows you to now have a testimony. Because without those experiences, there is no testimony. So that's why now I can say a lot of things that I did choose because it's a choice. We don't want to look at it as that, but it's a choice, right? We wake up every day and we choose whether we're going to do good or whether we're going to do something bad, right? And in that particular phase of my life, I just was not making the best choices that I could have been making, just being honest. Because I looked at it as tit for tat. Oh, you hurt me, I hurt you back. You hurt me, oh, I hurt you back more. Oh, you hurt me. Oh, baby, two can play that. Because I got you and I'm going to hurt you worse than you hurt me. But then I realized once I asked God why, and then I prayed that prayer that you should never pray. You know that prayer, you know, that you really shouldn't pray unless you are really, really, really ready. Because sometimes when you pray that prayer of, you know, Lord, if it's your will, whoever's not here supposed to be here, blah, 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 you know, please remove them. No hurt, harm come, but just please remove them. And when you pray that prayer, sometimes the people or the things that get removed were not the things that you thought were going to be removed. But in this particular situation, it was definitely the person that needed to be removed. And so when I gave them the ultimatum and they made a decision based off of what they were feeling, it was easy for me to walk away and I'd never look back. So is it hard? Yes. Was it hard then? Yes. If you had told me that I would be this person today that would not have been talking to that person, I'd have just laughed at you because I just knew that that was it, right? Like that was my end all be all. But once that barrier was removed and I got into alignment, which is what we talk about a lot, like, you know, walking into your purpose, being in alignment with what it is that you're supposed to be doing, not what society says you should be doing, not letting other people put labels on you, then it allowed me to open my eyes where I was blind to be able to see that that is not who you are. This angry person that you come off being, that's really not who you are. That is who you have chosen to identify as a result of the experiences.
Well, I think that your story is not unique. And I thank you for your vulnerability with the audience. And I want to expand where we're going because we all make we've been talking about women, but this is not just about women. It's about all of us. And we all make decisions based upon needs. And the thing that is sometimes challenging for us is to understand that you can make another choice because your needs change. Because as you talked about, you said we're constantly healing. Well, in essence, we sort of are because we're constantly being hurt every day too. We don't think about it that way, but there are many things that happen throughout the day that displease us. And when things displease you, and depend upon where your psyche is or where your mind is or how strong you are, you have a reaction to that, whether you are in tune to it or not. Your body may be in tune if you're not consciously in tune, but there's a reaction that takes place. And plus also because, just think about I'm not trying to be scientific, but just our bodies in general. We're constantly losing cells. Let's just go with cells. So that means we're constantly healing because as those dead cells fall off, new cells are being generated. So when we talk about we're always healing, even if you think about it from that perspective, because that might be easier to chew. From the physiological perspective, we're always healing because our bodies are always regenerating themselves, hopefully. So therefore, we are all going through something, as you said, every day. But I want to go back to women now because there have been different things that have been said, and there's nothing that's new. It's always the same old thing about the cultural expectations and how they shape women. So when we take a look at cultural expectations, how do they really shape the way women in particular are judged? And they can be, and when I say judge, I mean on every level. How do those cultural expectations really influence that?
Well, I think it goes back to, women should be seen and not heard. A woman's place is in the home, and then it's like we decided, 60s, 70s, that no, we want equal rights. I bring more to the table than just being a homemaker. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's nothing wrong with being a homemaker. If you are in a financial situation where that is your story, I am happy for you. But for the majority, that's not our story, right? We have to, as we say, get it out the mud and get it done. And it's hard when you're in a male-dominated society where, again, you should be seen and not heard. You don't. In the words of the Scarecrow, if I only had a brain, you're not supposed to have a brain. And if you have one, you're not supposed to be able to use it. But as we have seen over, history, over time, we have fought back. Now, I'm not saying that, we have overcome, because of course we haven't, right? When we talk about jobs and salaries and responsibilities, of course, we're not where we hope that we would be in 2026. It doesn't mean that we won't get there, but right now we're not there. There's still work to be done. But as a result of our experiences and our struggles, we've had to overcome because we've always had to be the nurturer. We've always had to be the person that showed up and be there for everyone. And as a result, it's easy for us to put ourselves on the back burner.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, as you alluded to, society sort of has set that up for us. I was watching something earlier And it was interesting. It's set in like 1930s. And this gentleman was leaving. He was saying he had changed his will and he was leaving money to all the different people, these boys and everything. But he had a girl that he was that was his ward. He was leaving her nothing. And, fast forward years later, the gentleman's going to be killed. But at that time, he had planned to leave his whole fortune to this young lady. But what I thought about was it's ironic how in the 30s, it was like, no, she was a second-class citizen. She didn't deserve to receive the money. And the reason I think he was going to leave it to her once she'd grown up, he saw how brilliant she was. And so he was going to leave his fortune to her versus someone else. But that speaks to the fact that those are those cultural expectations that have shaped who women are supposed to be. And unfortunately, even in the 21st century, they still shape the view of who we are. And it's still something that we are still trying to combat to this day. I just want to level set for the audience. If you're ready to grow your business with clarity and strategy, DQ Consulting works with individuals and organizations to turn their vision into execution. Visit AskDrTaz.com to learn more. That's AskDrTaz.com to learn more. OnJerya, I want to know now, what happens when someone decides to stop explaining their choices? Because as women, we always got to explain it. I just can't make a decision. I have to explain why I have decided that I'm not going to do that anymore, or that's unacceptable for me. So what happens when someone decides to stop explaining their choices?
I guess my response will be, do we really ever stop? Do we really ever stop explaining? Because we may not directly stop, right? But indirectly, we're still explaining. And I know you're like, okay, but what are you saying? So, example, you may say, okay, OnJerya, we're going to go to this place at this time on this day. And I know deep down on the inside, I really don't want to go, right? I don't want to go. So I may say, well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. Well, see, I basically indirectly told you no, right? I just didn't come out and say, no, I don't want to go. But it's up for you as the person that's on the receiving end to pick up what I'm putting down. Because if I was actually interested in whatever's being presented to me, I just jump right on it. But anytime I start hemming and hawing about it, I don't know. Think about that. That is me basically telling you no. But like I said, the person on the receiving end, because I didn't directly say no, you're assuming that there's still a chance of an opportunity of something coming to be.
No. No. So what I'm hearing is you're saying that I don't ever have any autonomy. Because you're saying that I may not directly explain my decision,
Right.
but I'm still shifting. Well, I'm thinking about what you're saying, and then I'm thinking about, as a female, because I'm a female, and I'm thinking about things that have changed in my life. And I know there's some things right now, actually, but I know, but I'm not explaining it.
Yeah.
The Nigerian, he used to say that's not necessary. And he's right, that's not necessary. Because I don't owe you an explanation for decisions that I make that are about me. You don't owe me explanations. And so therefore, I'm going to hold my autonomy. Now, I may not have autonomy for many things in life. Because that old joke I said what did I say? What is that old joke? I can't even think what the old joke is, but basically you can't what is my little joke about? You can't even believe, because you can't even believe yourself, because you'll say you're not going to do something and then you wind up doing it, is the old joke sort of. But my point is this: the Nigerian says that that's not necessary, and he's right, because it's not necessary for me to give you an explanation about decisions that I make for my life. I don't need to know why you made that decision. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not. I really don't need to know that, because I got enough stuff that I got to take care of. So why you made decisions about your personal life and your situation, that is between you and yourself, and whatever you believe in, that's a higher power. That has nothing to do with me. And so this idea that that I am not allowed to stop explaining the decisions that I make about me, I have a problem with that, because that means then when we talk real talk, I'm always going to be doing what somebody else wants me to do, and I'm not. Because that means that's my representative showing up. We're going all the way back. That's my representative. That's not me showing up. And I am a multifaceted individual, as you well know. And I said to you in another setting that I need more of Teresa to come, not Dr. Taz. And then I said to someone, it was like, well, I'm always myself. Well, I'm always myself too. But Teresa is Teresa. Dr. Taz is Dr. Taz. They connect, and they really like this. But you get more Teresa when we're offline. It's still, you're gonna get Taz too. And you can attest to that. You're gonna get both of them, but you're gonna get the Teresa version of Taz, which is different. It's the same person. Same person. I kid you not, because I've been like this for 50-some years now. Same person. So I was like this before I was doctor. Same person, but you get the Teresa flair. Whereas when I'm online, you get the Dr. Taz flair, which are the same person. But let's be real, because this is called real talk. Different situations require different aspects of Taz. And so therefore, I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but they're not mine either. And I don't have to explain it. And they got to explain it to me. Because as I said some years ago, you take your ticket and you go your way, and I'm going to take my ticket and I'm going to go my way. And neither should the two meet again. Because you are you and I am me. I shouldn't have to explain that. And that goes back to this culture and this idea that women have to be a certain way. And that should not be the case. So how can we then, OnJerya, as individuals, balance the visibility? Because, you know, as you already said, you're really an introvert, as am I. But how can we balance the visibility with being authentic?
Well, again, it goes back to doing the work of determining who are you. Okay. Because whoever, once you do that self-discovery, and I mean that deep down, and you do the healing of the inner child and sometimes the adult child too, you know, once you do the work to determine like, who am I, right? And that's hard. That's like the $1 million question. Who am I? I know who you say that I am, but who am I that I say that I am to myself? And that's hard. So once you do the heavy lifting, and we ain't got time to go through that heavy lifting, but once you do that heavy lifting to discover like who I am, then there's really no need for the representative. You just be nicely code switching, which I guess you can say is still the representative, but not really. You just code switching. You just understanding that in this particular setting, when I have to interact with the public, I have to be this person. That's not representing. When you're representing, that means you're fake and phony, right? I can still be me and be quiet as a church mouse. But it doesn't mean that, if, like I said, if I'm sitting over here by myself and somebody wants to come and pull up a chair beside me, then I'm not going to be cordial. But you're not going to also force me to have a conversation with you either, because I'm not a people person. So once you discover who you are and then whose you are, and then do another deep dive to determine this representative that I'm showing up with, is that really who I am? Is that really how I like to be viewed? Is because I mean, we all have different versions of ourselves, right? Like, I used to tell my oldest niece, and she used to be like, "Girl, you just being fake," and I'd be like, "Mm-mm." I said, "Let me tell you something." I said, I have some friends that can get the information raw because they can handle the truth. They're not going to judge me. They're not going to side on me. They're not going to look at me like, you did all that. They're not going to do that. But then I have some friends where I can't really tell you everything because you a little judgy. And then you want to give me feedback like, like you don't have no skeletons in your closet as well. And we all got skeletons in the closet. So, they don't get everything. Good note. They don't get everything. So as a result, it may come across that I'm not being authentic, but I really am. I'm just choosing not to share everything with you because, as you oh so nicely just stated, there's really not a reason to. So what I want to share is what I'm going to share, and how I'm going to move is how I'm going to move. Now it's up to you to determine which person is showing up. Is it the authentic person, or is it the resume person? Because we all got that person too.
Well, Angie, I thank you for bringing that home, because basically that's the reality. When we try to really step in and show up as our authentic self, our true selves, there's a fear that goes with that, because some people are going to be judgy. Some people are going to understand that, oh no, that's just her. Oh, you didn't know that side. Oh, you just didn't know that side of her, because that's who she is. And that really speaks to the fear of being being viewed in an unkind way, is the way I'm going to put it. Because I think that's what we are concerned about most of the times, not everybody, that we're going to be viewed in a negative way or an unkind way, and we're going to lose people. Well, that great philosopher say, well, if they went out, well, the Bible says this, the philosopher, he used it in his sermon, but the Bible says they went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they'd been of us, surely they would have continued on with us. And my point is this: if a person says that they cannot be around you, let them go. That's relationships. That's your sibling. That's your parents, whomever, your neighbors, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, that organization, that church, whatever. Because people that you're supposed to be with, they're going to be with you through thick and thin.
Yep.
But those people that you're not supposed to be tied to, let them go. Because you see, we spend so much time trying to keep people hostage that we think are supposed to be a part of our universe, when in actuality, they're not supposed to be a part of our universe. And most of the times, those people that you're trying to keep with you, you are not allowed to be your authentic self with those people. But that's a conversation for another day. Thank you for sitting in this conversation with us. Real talk is not about having it all figured out. It's about telling the truth about where you are and giving yourself permission to grow from there. As you move through the rest of your day, we invite you to sit with this question: what did this conversation name for you that you have been carrying quietly? You do not have to resolve it today. Awareness is part of the work. This conversation is part of a 4-episode limited series. Each episode stands on its own, but together they explore boundaries, burnout, healing, and becoming in real life. And you know the drill. Before you go trying to take care of someone else, make sure you take care of yourself first. Bye now.